Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter. I am a curator in the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books and Manuscripts in the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. Once a week, I hop on Zoom for 30 minutes with a manuscript from our collection. If you are returning, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to see not old names, but familiar names in the list. And if it's your first time here, you are very welcome. I'm glad you're here. This is, as I say, it's totally informal. It's like a show and tell. If you have questions as we go, please type them in the chat. I will read them out loud so they get caught on the recording and so everyone knows they're there, and we'll answer as I can. And my colleague, Amy Hutchins, you'll see her up there in the Zoom bar. She is our manuscripts cataloging librarian, and she will also answer questions too. So without further ado, let's go. So this is MS Codex 17. The provenance is that we bought this manuscript in 1955. So we've had it in our collection for a long time. We bought it from a bookseller called William Allen. It looks like he purchased it at another auction in I guess he didn't. Somebody sold it at auction in 1827. And then before that, it was sold at auction in 1821. And then before that, we don't really know where it was. Although the texts, I think, are known to be sort of popular in the Cistercian monastic order, so maybe Cistercian. But the manuscript is solidly 15th century Italian, and it looks 15th century Italian. It does not, quote unquote, look Cistercian. Cistercian manuscripts tend to be very plain. And it's also, I think, kind of late maybe for that. All right. It has two texts in it. One of them has been identified, and then the other one hasn't been identified. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist anywhere else. It just means that we don't know what it is. Let's take a quick look at the binding. The binding is a 15th century binding. So I would call this contemporary. Actually, hold on. There we go. So the binding, whether it's the original binding or not, I don't know, but it's roughly contemporary with the manuscript. It's leather over board, and I'm kind of moving it under the light so you can see that it's been stamped, right? There's some kind of decoration here in the binding. There was some work done on the binding in the 19th century, but this is called red rot, and it's just sort of the leather breaking down, especially at the creases, and it gets dirt on my nice black thing here, but that's okay. All right, so that's a quick look at the binding. Let's take a look at the manuscript. And I say it looks 15th century Italian. We have a lot of 15th century Italian manuscripts in our collection because there were a lot of manuscripts made in Italy in the 15th century. It was a great century for manuscripts, and they have a really sort of particular look in the kind of script that they're written in the way that's laid out on the page. They tend to have large margins, clearly written, very nice illuminations, but sort of not florid the way that you see in like books of hours, or I guess French books of hours. Okay, yes, it's got this great initial with like plants in there, and then the first couple of words are these alternating red and blue and sort of gold or yellow, which is pretty nice. And I want you all to see over here. Now this is a later hand. This is not a 15th century hand. This is later, which is identifying the text as De Spiritu et Anima, the A is under there, by Augustine, right? It's explicitly identifying it as Augustine. Now, this text was not written by Augustine. It is I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole because I thought this was interesting. So this text, De Spiritu et Anima, has been attributed to someone called Alcherus of Clairvaux. So Clairvaux was a Cistercian monastery in England. It might have been it wasn't the first. I think the first one. I'm saying England, and now I'm thinking maybe it's in France because I'm confusing it with Rivaux, which is in England. In any case, he was at Clairvaux. It's kind of a compilation of a lot of works by a lot of different authors. So I'm looking at the Wikipedia. Please forgive me. It says text taken from Alcuin, Anselm, Bernard of Clairvaux, Augustine of Hippo, Cassiodorus, Hugh of St. Victor, Isaac of Stella, and Isidore of Seville, and Boethius. So a lot of like the greats, somebody took sections of them and stuck them together in this. And then at some point it got identified with Augustine. We would probably call it Pseudo-Augustine. Whether or not Alcherus of Clairvaux actually did the compiling is not clear. So at some point, at least it says a real greatest hits. Yes, like this was, and it was a popular text too. I read that there is something like 300 surviving manuscripts of this. So it was popular. It was written in the 12th century. So this is a much later copy there. So let's go ahead and sort of start paging through so we can take a look at it. The script is humanistic cursive script, written by a single hand, and it is before I started, Brian asked about the date. We know both the date that this was written or finished, and also we know the name of the scribe, because the scribe actually writes his name, and we'll get to that too. So it's going to look familiar all the way through. Amy says humanistic cursive, also known as italic. Yes, so this is where italic, we get our own italic, and it will look somewhat familiar to you because this is the kind of script that our modern fonts are based on, more or less. Leslie asked me to zoom in on the text. Is this good? We got a little more of the text here. We can see, I think at this close, I hope you can see there is some ruling. It's a very, very light ruling. I can see it mostly, let me come up here, right, I think underneath these words here, there's a very, very light line. It's very lightly ruled, but it is ruled. We can also see it's pretty heavily abbreviated. So here's a macron over this letter showing that it gets expanded. This one here in particular, this R with the line through it is aurum. So that means aurum. We have, I'm not sure, a Q with something, it's a que or a qui. And here the scribe has come back and is indicating that he made a mistake. So he is, I think, maybe replacing that word with this one here. There's another ruling line. You can see now that I'm looking, I guess the ruling line is a little bit better there. Here's another, I think that's Essa, so a little bit there. So this is essentially what it looks like. There are also these other marginal notes, which look to me like it's a different scribe, and they're also in the same red that it looks like is being used for rubrication. So it could be a second scribe who's coming through and adding rubrics and also making notes. Let's see, ratio, canatio, ratio. So pointing that out for some reason. And this looks like this is additional text. So this is a note maybe to what's happening here. So I think, yeah, there's a little bit of conversation happening in the chat about the script. Leslie says it looks a lot like Carolingian, which does slant, and Elisa says humanistic Italian hands were based on Carolingian minuscule, which were perhaps mistakenly believed to be classical hands, which is how we get the script that we have today, which is kind of fun. All right, here, let's zoom out a little bit more so we can see that. So here's another one of these red notes. And I think in my cursory going through this, it looked like most of the notes, or all of the notes, are either this the red hand, or the original script here. And we've got some alternating red and blue at the start, and that. So we'll get to the next text too, because the next text is just as interesting as this one. Oh, what's happening here? I know what's happening here. So there's a couple of words sort of written down here. This is a catchword. So we see catchwords written in different places. So for those of you who don't know, a catchword is written at the end of a quire. A quire is several sheets of paper, or in this case, parchment. So this is on animal skin, that are folded and made into booklets, and then those booklets are sewn together to make the book. And often the scribe will write what comes next at the bottom of a quire, so the person who's putting them together for binding will know that they get them in the right order. And it also means that we can look and see, is this in the right order? Is anything missing? And Maliuque, and it's the same here. So this is right. We're good. We're all good. I think the manuscript is all good. Let's see. Claire says it looks and sounds like good parchment. It's really nice. It feels delightful. You can see, especially here, this is the hair side, because we're definitely seeing like hair follicles here. So we know that this is the hair side, and I can tell from feeling it, actually, this is the hair side, and this is the flesh side. The flesh side is smoother and doesn't have so much with the hair follicles. So here's the hair follicles over there. Interesting. This looks like hair side. Usually hair side faces hair side and flesh side faces flesh side. So I'm not sure why this is. That's interesting. Is it all like that? I'm all curious now. This is hair. No, this is hair. Interesting. Okay, I haven't looked at I'm very into like manuscript structure, so sorry for kind of getting off track like that. This one has even more visible hair follicles. Now that said, you can see the follicles, but yes, the parchment is still very clean, and it's not as crunchy as some lower quality parchment is. Like lower quality parchment can get really that. So Brian is asking about these words that are in capitals. This is the beginning of sections of text, and I don't know enough about the text to say what exactly the sections are or what they're for, but it's clearly like to the reader, it's telling the person reading it that here is a new section that we're starting out with a header. Sometimes manuscripts will have, instead of just having this, you might even have like what we call an incipit, and it will actually, this happens later in the manuscript. Like it's an incipit, like here begins this text or here ends this text, and that might be written wholly in red. So it's not just important. I think it's not just important words. Although here, wait a minute, sapientia, it looks like they're defining them maybe. So sapientia is a definition, sensus, and then describing the sensus, rationality. So they are important words, but it's not just in the middle. It's not like an important word in the middle of a sentence. It's like starting something out. And Amy is pointing out that these are called square capitals, which I think these are really from Carolingian, right? Like these look like Carolingian capitals to me. They're inspired by that, I think. Okay. So how are we doing? 18. Let's see, we're having these. I'm going to move forward a little bit because I do want to get to the second text, but we can see a little more. There's more. Now this, we're still in red, but this looks more to me like the original scribes' handwriting. That looks more similar to this than the previous ones. Mary Maxine is asking, has this work been translated into English, German, or French? I found a translation, I think, into Italian. It was very popular, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's been translated into other languages. I didn't find translations when I was looking. But that does not mean that it's not there. All right, we're getting close. I think it's, there's more of these marginal notes that really do look, well, maybe not. I'm not a paleographer. So let's get to 50. Here we go. So we're getting to the end. We're getting to the end of the first text. So 57 verso here. So this is where things are a little fun. So this is the end. This is the end of that first text, and it's closed out. And then we have this, Wale Gaspar. Gaspar is the scribe. So this is the scribe, and he's calls himself Gaspar. So this is the scribe signing off that he finished it. And then he starts the next text. So this second one is identified, what did it say? It's identified in the text as being, yes, identified in the text as St. Augustine's soliloquies. Yes. It says right here, Capitula Soliloquiarum Aurelii Augustina. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry, my hand's on the way. But it's saying right here, here is beginning the soliloquies of St. Augustine, which is a very popular text by St. Augustine of Hippo, who was very popular. But that is not actually what this text is, right? Someone, when this manuscript was cataloged, someone looked at this text and said, oh no, that's not that text, it's something else. But as I said, it hasn't been identified. So we don't know what it is. It doesn't mean it's original to this manuscript. It doesn't mean there are no other copies. I did a little bit of text searching on Google, and I couldn't find anything that matched exactly. But what I did find, I searched some phrases, and I found things popping up, partial phrases in Augustine. So it could be another compilation kind of thing, like the first one where it's pulling from a bunch of different stuff, but we don't know. All right, Brian, I'm getting to you. So Brian is asking, is this an index? So what this is a table of contents, essentially, to the second text that we're about to get to. We also have, I want to point out, the another catchword here. So the fact that there's a catchword here is kind of interesting to me, because it means that this text ended at the end of a choir, and instead of starting the next text on a new choir, he's starting it right here, which I don't know. That's just interesting to me. Like, why start here and not there? I don't know. Maybe he was planning all the time. on having them together. So here is it's a little bit of a table of contents. So you can see that these texts are numbered. So we have 2 is De Miseria and Fragilitate Hominum, 2 De Mirabili Lumine Dei, so and so on and so forth. So let's turn a little bit, and then we get to this pretty initial, and this one actually has gold leaf. So the first illuminated initial did not have gold leaf, and this one does. It is a beauty, and it's actually, I'm going to turn back just to remind you all of what the first one looked like. It's a different kind of art, right? They're both very pretty, but this one is made with gold paint, and this one it's just very different. So there. So Kadi, hello, what are the 2 tiny S's over the 2 tiny C's? And I'm wondering if that's Essa, because it might be E's instead of C's. I'm not seeing where that was. There was one earlier in the manuscript that we looked at that was 2 E's with 2 S's over, and I think that's just Essa. Amy, is that? Amy's nodding her head. Okay, so it's just Essa. That's what that is. Okay, so now we start the next text. The text looks very similar in terms of the capitals going back and forth with the colors. Very different initial, different artist, maybe, or maybe the same artist doing a different kind of art. It could have been done later. So actually, this ends on this. Maybe this was made by itself, and they had the initial, and then he decided he was going to add more, and he added more a little bit later. Unclear. But anyway, this is clearly still Gaspar going on. And when we get to the first section, we'll see, I think. So there's a lot going on here that I'm not really, I was looking at this earlier and I was like, I am not sure what's going on. So we start seeing these in the bottom margin. I think that says Veni. It looks like Veni, maybe. Let me zoom in. Veni. And I don't know, is that, it's not the next, that is not the word at the next page. I don't know. Here's the point where like, I don't know what's happening. And I see more of them. And sometimes it looks like they are maybe, I don't know. So here's another one where that looks maybe like a G or some letter. It could be a signature number, so we could be numbering the choirs, but there's no catchword here to indicate that this is the end of a choir and this is starting. And again, I haven't looked at the structure, but anyway, kind of interesting thing happening there. The parchment, if you're curious, the parchment seems to be the same in this section as in the first section, and the script is the same and the ink looks the same. So here we have LV, oh, here we go, 3, De Mirabili Lumine Dei. So remember this from the table of content. If we go back to 57, here we go. This is number 3, and here's number 3. So it's not like a modern table of contents. Like it doesn't give us like a page number. They didn't number the pages, right? There are numbers here, and those were added somewhat later, I think. But it still is a helpful way you can go through and look for, number 3 there. Let's see. And I don't know if you can tell. It's actually a little tight. The binding is a little tight, so it's hard for me to open it up very far. Here we go. looks like here's another, the 3 little dots there, and then there's 3 little dots here. It looks like he wrote the wrong word, and now he's come back and he's fixing it there. And here's another, this looks more like a signature. This does look like a choir signature. I'm actually gonna count now to see. So if this is the first leaf in the choir, 1, 2, 3, and then there's like a word, another word. That's not a choir signature. It's almost like somebody's taking a note. So that was 3, 4. Does that say finis? It does look like finis, but I don't know what's finishing. Have I seen the same thing on other manuscripts, like weird things written in the margins? There's all kinds of weird things written in the margins. I've seen choir signatures. I'm sure I've seen like weird little, let me see, this is, what was this, 4, 5, 6. I just want to see if I can get to 8, 7, and then there's this. Things that don't, okay, so Brian is asking, seen the same thing on other manuscripts, weird things that don't mean anything. I think that they mean something, I just don't know what they mean. And yeah, I think I probably have seen other things in manuscripts in the margins that people added that I wasn't really sure what they mean. Sometimes it's really obvious, the type of thing that they're doing, like the ones where they have like little dots, and then there's little dots. It's like they're fixing something, or if it's a note, they're fixing something. All right, we have like a minute left, so I'm gonna skip to the end because there's more cool, interesting stuff at the end. So at the very beginning, before the recording even started, Brian was asking how we know the date, because in the catalog record, it says it's written in Italy, 13th of September, 1463. And then it has a number, which is 143 verso, which is this choir right here. And I'll zoom all the way in so we can see. So we get to the end, and again, we have Wale Gaspar. So this is Gaspar. He's our scribe, and he's signing off. And he is saying that I'm not sure exactly what it's saying, but transcripti. So he wrote this September 13th, and then 1463, just written out in letters or in numbers, so you can see that. So this is so great. It's so clean. We know who wrote it. We know exactly when he finished it. We don't know exactly what the text is, which is kind of a fun mystery. So if you feel like trying to solve a mystery, the work is, or the manuscript has been digitized. You can go to our website and transcribe it and maybe do some searching and see if you can figure it out. Okay, Gazwan wants me to zoom to the front of the binding because he thinks it looks like Arabic script. So I think it's just sort of not work, but it could be inspired by Arabic script, because there would have been cultural, but no, it's just decorative knotwork. But that's a nice way to end. Thanks everyone. Hope to see you next week, and have a good week, and take care. Bye.